In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 things that was positive that came out of COVID-19. And yes, I am sweating because I just finished a massive exercise at a CrossFit gym. Actually finished second place out of many people. Did over 40 burpees and 100 calories on the row. Anyhow, let's get started. Number one, and I'm doing this list because so many people focus on the negative and they just think of it as the worst year ever, and that's not necessarily true. Number one, COVID completely changed the potential career lifestyle that many younger graduates and older professionals will have in the workplace. Let's just be honest, it's clear as day, it's super obvious that a lot of companies are now much more open to remote work. This is a blessing because, for most people's lives, some people's lives, and then, for some young graduates, they've had to kind of live in a world where the boss was like, no, you can't work from home. No, you got to come into the office. 2-hour commute, that's your problem. You have to come into the office. And so, across the world, not just the US, but across the world, people have been suffering, driving into work for an hour and a half, not being able to spend as much time with family and all sorts of stuff like that. But now, because of that remote flexibility, and because companies have learned that employees can be just as productive, if not more, some companies, not all, have become more remote flexible or even remote first and allowed some or all employees to work 100% remotely. So it's quite a blessing and quite a privilege to have. And it's yet another thing that we are getting in our lifestyle that people in the past didn't, that we should never take for granted and we should cherish. Number two, this is related to number one, but employers are more likely to hire you if you don't live in that city. I've talked to a lot of professionals for informational interviews and all sorts of other stuff, just to network and stuff. And getting hired in a city when you don't live in a city is tough. They will tell you it's tough. I talked to people in the entertainment industry. I've talked to people in finance. I've talked to people in tech. And let's just be honest, you could be a super high performing individual, but unfortunately there's still that bias there where when they find out that you don't live in that city, your chances are less. They'll be like, oh, sorry, we're going to have to pass on you. Oh, you don't live in Los Angeles? You don't live in New York? Sorry, we're going to have to pass. The benefit of remote work and all of the things that have come from it is companies are more open, more likely, not a guarantee, but more likely to give you a chance and even let you work remotely part-time or full-time if you have the skills. Now, that bias is still going to be there, especially for a lot of kind of in-person jobs, especially in the entertainment industry, because they're going to want you to film there. Even if you're willing to relocate, unfortunately, that's something that, a lot of us who don't live in that major city, we're going to have to struggle with, and it sucks. Believe me, I know. But that is another benefit and another way where we're just kind of eliminating biases. And number three, we're going to kind of move into more young student focused benefits, or just general personal benefits, because we got a lot of different people watching these videos with different goals. So the third thing would be COVID really taught us to not take life for granted in so many different ways, specifically in social ways. How many people, probably most people, how many people really just kind of took their friends, their relationships, hanging out in public, going to a restaurant, catching up, or even just hugging your family member for granted? A lot of that was taken away during COVID-19 to stop the spread of the disease. And, all of a sudden they realized how important it was. And all of a sudden, a lot of friends that you were taking for granted, that you would see every now and then, just whenever they would pop up, you started to really cherish. And then all of a sudden, you realize you don't really maintain your relationships. You don't really reach out as much as you should, or you don't spend as much time with your family as you should, or you really should cherish, the hug that you get from your family member. So there's so many ways of taking this, but the point is there's so many things that we take for granted that we really shouldn't, because that's really what gives life its flavor, its happiness, and its amazingness when you savor those moments that you have. And that brings us to number 4, the fourth tip. And this one is also very much related. And I wanted to highlight this specifically. COVID-19 gave some individuals the ability to really spend time with their family and really change their work-life balance. Some of these people really needed it. I mean, you saw this a lot when you would watch Ellen DeGeneres interview celebrities. I mean, I know I did. A lot of these celebrities, they're constantly on the move. They're on tour because they're musicians, or they're just flying around the place all the time because they're filming music videos or films or TV shows. And the one that really sticks to mind is Jennifer Lopez. And she's like, this is very weird. I've never been able to kind of stay in one place with my husband and my family for over 2 months. And, you know, that's obviously a big sacrifice you have to make. And sometimes people just get too kind of inundated with work. And I'm not saying this is Jennifer Lopez. Like maybe she probably, I don't know her situation. She maybe chose to make that sacrifice. I don't know. But, or she makes it work while traveling. I don't know. But for other celebrities or other people, they fall into a place where they just let work consume them. And all of a sudden, they let all these things that they've neglected fall into the wayside until years later, they regret that they barely spend any time with their children, or they barely kept up with their health, and now they're almost going to die, or they're obese or whatever. And for some people, you know, I think it kind of gave them that opportunity, and then hopefully it made them kind of think, hey, this is something I want more of. I'm going to make sure that even after COVID, I'm going to, you know, dedicate some time to either be remote more, or, you know, spend more time with family, or whatever else. So, you know, I think it's a huge thing that you should cherish, and you can interpret that in many ways, because let's say you don't really have, you're already with your family because you're a young student. Well, what about all the friends that you used to talk to in school, and now you can't anymore? But, you know, some of you have realized that you have to be proactive and reach out, or that if you don't reach out, then you don't get to hang out with them. And now you're starting to develop that skill set of reaching out to people, and that's what I did. And now you're able to maintain friendships more, rather than just be passive and hope that they come to you, or at least just cherish them when things do start to open up. So the fifth and final positive that came from kind of the COVID-19 pandemic and all its results is that the pandemic really got us to get rid of excuses. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, a lot of people have this excuse of, oh, I just don't have the time for that. If I had the time for that, then I would be successful, or I would do that and I would succeed. I hear this all the time. I'm sure you've heard it as well. Some people, and I'm specifically focusing on those moments where they have something on the side that they would do if they had the time. Maybe someone's working an office job, or maybe they're working in school, and they don't have the time to make music or write a book. But they know, at least they think they know, that if they write that book or they make that song, it would be a smash hit, and then they would be rich and successful. But because they don't have the time, they can't do it. Well, COVID-19, I've seen it with my own eyes. It eliminated that excuse for a lot of people, because all of a sudden they had a lot more free time. It just was what it is. You know, a lot of these people, first off, a lot of things that they were doing with their free time wasn't really necessary anyways. Oftentimes it was just like random stuff, like going out to eat, or going to some sports league, or maybe it was necessary and they had all these kind of outdoor activities that they had to attend for work or something after work. But all of a sudden, a lot of people had all that eliminated because they couldn't go out. So you saw a lot of memes, you saw a lot of TikToks on this, basically poking fun at how people had so much free time at home and they were bored in the house. And now all of a sudden you get this situation where a lot of people, whether, you know, some will never admit it because of their ego or whatever, but a lot of people realize, you know what, I can't use that excuse anymore. I can't, because I had all this free time during the pandemic quarantine, and I still didn't write that song because really, I just don't like writing songs. It's a lot of work. It's more work than I thought, or whatever. And part of them, whether they will fully admit it or not, has realized that that was an excuse, and it was not the lack of time that was stopping them from achieving their dreams. So that's a huge thing. It definitely was for me. I use that songwriting example because it is one of the things that I figured I would want to do, but turns out maybe not for now. I am a huge fan of music, but it not so much that I would spend a lot of my free time doing it. But there were definitely things that I did push aside excuses and develop, like painting a little bit, and then exercising at home, and learning how to cook. So that's it for this video. Like, subscribe, comment. Hopefully it'll help keep you positive, and see you later.